She is the Stocks and Kings color analyst, and she's the co-host of the Deuce and Mo Podcast. We welcome Morgan Ragan onto Hoopsology. How's it going, Morgan?
Hey, it's going wonderful. How are you?
Doing great, and thanks for coming on to the show. Really appreciate it. And I wanted to have you on because on our podcast, we like to give love to all the teams, not just like the ones that's in the headlines all the time. And you and your co-host Deuce provide a lot of great analysis on the Sacramento Kings. So I just want to kind of get kind of your impressions on where you think the Kings are going to perform this season. Last season, they were 31 and 41 in the Western Conference. What's kind of your insight about this team now? There's this new element of the play-in tournament, kind of to give you more hope in terms of their expectations for this season. What do you expect from the team this season?
Yeah, and first, let me say you're so smart for digging deeper into the different markets that don't get a lot of national love because there's a lot of losing in those markets, or at least in the Sacramento market. So it's nice when someone actually wants to hear about it. So thank you so much.
Sure.
And yeah, but this is the cool thing too, Justin, is that I do think that you're going to hear a little bit more about the Kings even throughout the national media this year. I could be a little bit optimistic because of what I'm seeing through 2 preseason games. Again, preseason, I will preface it, preseason. But I really think De'Aaron Fox, who you probably know, a lot of people talk about him a little bit more on that national level. And if they start getting more of those wins, they will be talking about him. And then if they get in that play-in game, he will be talked about as the one that helped lead them to that play-in game. So, as of today, after a second preseason game, I'm optimistic toward the preseason or toward the play-in game. Not so much like, oh, hey, they're just going to make the playoffs. It's like a play-in game. I know our standards are low here in Sacramento. It's been 15 years, so you can see why. But I really do think the play-in game is something that is realistic for them. And I think when you look at the Western Conference and you're seeing some of these teams like even the Spurs could possibly drop, and where the Pelicans gonna be, with everything that's going on there. I think some people are getting a little extreme when they talk about like the Clippers are gonna have a huge drop off. Like they still have one of the top elite scorers in basketball on their squad, even with Kawhi Leonard sitting down, So I think for the Kings, it's really going to depend on how bad some of those teams are. Plus, their roster, there's improvement to it, but I can't sit here today and act like, oh, yeah, they made so many moves. It's such an improved roster. I just think there's guys like De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, who was a rookie last year, who are actually you're going to see a little leap from them, but they also did well in this last draft with Davion Mitchell.
So what do you make of De'Aaron Fox? Because you have all these like rookies kind of rising at the same time. You saw Trae Young, Devin Booker really, take on that national spotlight. Do you think De'Aaron Fox is kind of that next one to kind of, hop into kind of that national spotlight if, what you mentioned holds to be true in terms of them making a little bit of a playoff run?
Yeah, that's what it's really going to depend on, because I get to watch De'Aaron Fox what it feels like every single night during an NBA season. And then once I'm not watching the Kings every night, I'm still watching these other NBA players play on those off nights. And then because the Kings haven't made the playoffs in 15 years, I'm always watching the postseason, stud players and the Trae Youngs, those guys that you're talking about. So I get to see all of those skill levels, and De'Aaron Fox is already there. He really, truly is. It's more of the little things, and then the biggest thing is winning. If they could win, he would be in that conversation right now. And it's awful because it's a team sport, but then people want to go to blaming the one and only, close to being an all-star player that like, well, if he can't get them there, then he's not good enough. You can't put all the blame on him. You can't, when there hasn't been sustainability in this franchise for so long. So I think his name will be more in that conversation though this year, because he's also added a lot more confidence in his shot, which Now he's becoming that shooting threat, also being super explosive as one of the fastest guards in this league. But he also added on like almost 10 pounds. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it's going to help him when he's at the rack trying to finish, even though he's one of the best finishers even last year. It's still going to he's going to benefit from it so much more. And I think he's understanding how much he has to be here for this team every single minute on the floor.
And you also talked about Davion Mitchell, and not only was he mentioned by De'Aaron Fox in terms of being a top defender in the league, but I saw a little bit of his training video. I think it was for either summer league or for the draft. I'm not sure which, but he just seems like a different dude. And we'll talk about Ben Simmons later, but just the way he just talks about the game, talks about like not paying attention to social media, just about how he discusses taking care of his body, not putting like junk food in there, and he just seems like a professional being a rookie. That really stands out to me in terms of him having long-term success in the league. And even though I looked at that, the Rookie of the Year odds, he's kind of in the middle, not like at the top in terms of figuring into that discussion. But I think he's going to be like a standout for years to come. What do you think of Mitchell's progress? I know it's only 2 preseason games, but what do you make of him so far?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we were all curious after. I think everyone in Sacramento was surprised when he was drafted. He wasn't on a lot of people's mock draft boards and everything. But then once everyone experienced Summer League with him, it was, he was one of the best players in Summer League. He was the real deal. Okay, this is great. Then again, only 2 preseason games in.
Sure.
But seeing even last night when they played the Los Angeles Clippers, he had to take on Paul George at the end of the first quarter. And I know this is one defensive possession, but he's not only stayed in front of him, he disrupted Paul George's shot, an elite scorer in this league. And he had to shoot an awful shot because of Davion Mitchell's defense. I'm not acting like that's going to happen to every single elite player in this league, but it shows in what he's shown from Summer League to even these 2 preseason games, like he's defensively NBA ready. And there's no it doesn't matter that even De'Aaron Fox is saying that, like he's his teammate, sure, but De'Aaron's not one to just say things to say things. Like he's a very blunt and honest guy. So him saying that is great, but hello, basketball fans, just use your eyeballs and it's the eye test. He is defensively NBA ready.